Hey, boys and girls, welcome to a new week of math. This is lesson 10.1, problem solving using a recipe. And before we jump into our page, I actually want to do a little example for you. Imagine we had 8 apples. Here's my 8 apples. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, and I had 2 cups of flour. I'll just put 2 cups of flour. I'll just draw them. Sorry. 2 cups of flour. Here's my 1 cup and my 2 cups of flour. And I have, we'll do a 1 tablespoon of butter. And I have a half cup of sugar. I have a half cup of sugar. Okay. And I have 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. I'll just put this down. One tablespoon. And some of you who've baked are already feeling comfortable with this. So 1/2 cup of sugar. And then these were 2 cups of flour. And I need this for my apple pie. And then I have 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. Okay, so what if I only wanted to make half the recipe? Let's look at these ingredients. How in the world could I make half the recipe? I only want to make a little pie, and I don't need this big of a pie, so I'm only going to make half a recipe. What would I do? So I want you to think about it before I give you the answer. Well, what can I do with the apples? Well, this is kind of easy. I could take, here's my 8 apples. I could cross out half of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. And how many do I have left? Well, I only need 4 of these. Okay, well, my cups are easy of flour. What do I do to cut that in half? Well, I take away half of them, which is 1, and I am left with 1. Now it gets a little trickier. What if I have, and I'm going to draw this out for you. Let's say this is my full tablespoon of butter. What can I do? I can chop it in half, right? And get rid of half. So now I have a half tablespoon of butter. What about my cup of sugar? Now I'm going to draw this out. So here is a full cup of sugar already, but I only have half. This is how much I have. Okay, what can I do for that? Well, I could cut this half in half, right? And get rid of this one. And so what am I left with? I have a fourth. I have a 1/4 cup of sugar and 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. I'm going to draw this over up top. Here's my 1, and I have a half teaspoon. So I have 1, and I have a half. So I have 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. Well, what could I do to cut that in half? I can't just cross out one of these. No, because that wouldn't work. Okay, but I could do, I'm going to switch the color so you can see it. I can cut this in half, and I can cut this in half, and get rid of half of this, and get rid of half of this. So this is a half, and this is a 1/4. What? Now, just to stretch your brain a little bit, I know some of you like Josh are getting excited about this, and you could probably do it in your head. 1/2 is the same as how many 4ths, boys and girls? And you can see it in the picture. It's the same as 2/4. Remember, 2 times what is 4? Times 2. What you do to the top or bottom, you also do to the top. So times 2 times 2. So I have 2/4 plus 1/4 equals 3/4. And I can see it right here. 1, I'll even change it. 1, 2, 3/4. Okay, so I'm just using this as an example to show you what we're going to do today. We are going to divide our fractions in half. Now let's review. Anything divisible by 2, is that an even number or odd number? Anything that's even will always be divisible by 2. So let's cut in half some numbers. 8. What's 8 divided by 2? Quick. 4. Awesome. What is 12 divided by 2? 6. What is 10 divided by 2? 5. Okay, so any even number will work out evenly to divide by 2. Thankfully, the recipes that we have today, they are all going to work out for us. So stick with me. Let's read along. Let's look back at your page. We're on page 297. Page 297 in our book. It says, problem solving, use a recipe. A cook can half a recipe, so that means cut it in half like what we just did, a recipe to make less. The cook will usually use exactly half of all the listed ingredients. If you cut the apples in half but don't cut the sugar in half, it's going to be weird. So you have to half everything to make the recipe work out right. To halve fractions, make an equal fraction that can be halved. Okay, so let's look at it here. Here's our recipe. Here's the example. We have 1. Do you see 1? Here's 1, which is the same as 2 halves, right? Just so you remember, 2 halves. And then 1.5 cups of brown sugar. There it is. That also equals, is that the same as 1 2/4? Is this exactly the same amount, boys and girls? How do we know that? Because we know equivalent fractions. Let's look at it. 1/2 equals how many fourths? 2 times 2, we just did this, times 2, times what we do to the bottom, we also do to the top. So 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 1 is 2. And do you see it from our picture? Could I just draw this right here? Is it the same thing? Yes, that's what they did. So this is the same as this, and this is the same as this. Do you see it? Okay, so let's erase this. All right, so we just converted 1, still 1, because 4/4 is the same as 1, right? 1 2/4. Do you see it? There's 1/2. All right, so now, since we have fourths, we can cut these in half a little bit better. So we take our whole number, and if you want to keep it as fourths, right, you'd still take away this part. So you take away half of the whole number, and then you take away half of what's left over here. And what do you get? You get this piece, 1, 2, 3/4. Do you see it? 1, 2, 3/4. And just to mark it again, I'm going to show you this. These are the ones we got rid of. You got rid of half here. You got rid of this half, and you got rid of half of the half, which is 1/4. And what are you left over with? 1, 2, 3/4. Do you see that? 1, 2, 3/4. Awesome. Okay, let's look at 3/4 of chopped walnuts. Now, I can't split these fourths evenly. Can I split the fourths by 2? These thirds by 2? No. But can I chop it up into eighths? Sure I can. And I'm going to show you the math behind this. 3/4, does it equal 6/8? Let's look at it. 3/4 into eighths. 4 times 2 is 8. Okay. What I do to the bottom, I also do to the top. So 3 times 2 is 6. Does that equal 6/8? Yes, it does. Now let's look at our picture again. We cut it into eighths. Do you see that they've already done that for us? They're just showing you that 3/4 equals 6/8. Okay, so now that we have 6/8, do you see it right over here? Now that we have 6/8, we can cut them in half. So I have 6/8. I'm going to take away, what is half of 6? What's half of 6? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to get rid of half of those. 1, 2, 3. What am I left with? 3. I have 1, 2, 3 left. And here was the halves, the half we got rid of. We got rid of 3 over there. Okay, so this is all through pictures. It says use models to half the recipe. Rewrite each quantity of an ingredient. So it says use models to half the recipe. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to draw this out. If you can fit it right here, you can do that. So let's try it. If not, I have a separate piece of paper that I'll do. Here's my 1.5 cups of oats. Well, I want to get rid of half of that. But so I need to double the amount. I need to cut these both in half. I need to double this. I need to make this fourths instead of halves. I need to make this fourths instead of halves so I can get rid of it. Okay, did it change my fraction? No. Do I still have the same amount? Yes. But in order to divide it, I'm going to multiply this by 2 so I can get rid of some. Okay, now that I have that, let's get rid of half of these. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. I got rid of half here and half here. What is my fraction that I have left over? Do you see it? What's my fraction that I have left over? 1, 2, 3. I have 3. Is it halves now? No. What's the fraction? We're fourths. We cut it into fourths. We cut it into fourths. How many fourths do I have? 1, 2, 3. I have 3 fourths left. Okay, and we're just using pictures right now. Well, here's the good news, boys and girls. Without doing this again, it's the exact same fraction. 1 1/2, but I want to show you one more time. 1 1/2. Here's one. Here's another one. Okay. There's halves. I have 1. Do you see it? And 1/2. In order to split it evenly, I'll do it one more time. I need to cut these into fourths, so I'm doubling it. Did I change my fraction? No. It's the exact same amount. I'm just cutting it into smaller parts. Do you see? 1 1/2 is the same as 1 2 fourths. Okay, so let's do it again. Let's get rid of half of them. I'm going to mark it off again. 1, 2, 3. I marked off different ones than the last time, but am I marking off half of each? I marked off 2 out of the 4 here, and I marked off 1 out of the 2 here. What am I left with? Do you see it? 1, 2, 3 fourths. So I'm going to write that in. This one is 3 fourths. Now, 3/4 cups of oats. I have 3/4 cups shredded cocoa. I'm going to put cocoa nut. And yay, boys and girls, I'm going to let you just write this down. We know right now that 1 1/2 is reduced to 3/4. 3/4 cups flour. Uh-oh, we have a new one. What are we going to do? Let's see. Look at number 4. All right, we don't start with halves anymore. We're already starting with 3/4. 3/4, but I can't split that evenly. So what do I need to do? I'm going to double it. I'm going to cut them in half again. So 3/4, how do you double 3/4? Look what you see, 3/4. How do you double it? Well, if I'm going to double the bottom to make it 8ths, times 2 equals what? That's 8ths. So what I do to the bottom, I also do to the top. 3 times 2 is 6. There's 6/8. Let's draw it out. Here's my fourths. I'm going to cut these all in half again. So now I have, what do I have? 8ths. How many 8ths do I have? 6/8. Do you see it in the picture? Now, if I was getting, I'm going to show you the math behind this. What is half of 6 right here? I'm going to get rid of half of them. What's 6 divided by 2? Equals what? 6 divided by 2 equals 3. And it's still 8ths. Okay? Well, let's look back at the picture. Boop. There we go. Let's get rid of half of these. Getting rid of half of 6 is, I'm going to get rid of 1, 2, 3. Let's see what we have left. I bet you know. 1, 2, 3. I have 3 what? 3/8 because I cut these into eighths. So this is 3/8 cup, oops, of sugar. All right, boys and girls, what is half of a half? Does anyone know? We did it before a little bit. I'm going to cut this in half. Half of a half, I'm going to cut this in half. What does it become? Fourths. Let's look at the math behind it. Are you ready? 1/2 turning to fourths, that's times 2. What I do to the bottom, I also do to the top. So 1 times 2 is 2. That's how it works mathematically. Okay, I'm going to get rid of 2 of them. Are you ready? I'm sorry, I'm going to get rid of half. I'm going to get rid of this one. What do I have left? I have 1, what's the fraction? 1/4. So I have a half becomes 1/4 cup of butter. Good news, boys and girls. Yay, did you notice? We've already done this one. What is half? And sometimes as you do these more and more, you just get them stuck in your brain. I know that half of a half, so if I cut a sandwich in half and I cut that in half again, I know that I have a fourth. So if your mom packs you a half a sandwich in your lunch and you share half of that with a friend who forgot their sandwich, you share a fourth, okay? If I have 1.5 sandwiches and I cut them, I can't share that evenly, Mrs. Cornthal. Well, I can cut them into fourths, and I would get 3/4 and my friend would get 3/4. Sometimes after you do these long enough, boys and girls, you just start to remember. And do we know right here, look, 3/4, 1/2 was 3/4. 1/2 was 1.5 is 3/4. So I'm not going to do it again. I'm just going to let you write it in. Half of 1.5 is 3/4. And if you want to, you could do this picture again, but we've already done it 2 times. It's right there. 3/4 tablespoons, TBSP, of, I'm going to put light corn syrup. I'm not writing it out. All right, lick, yay! Again, what is half of 1.5? Same fraction, 3/4. And what is this? Teaspoons, TSP, teaspoons of baking soda. Okay, we have one more that we have not done yet. Are you ready? Yes, I'm ready. Oh, good. I'm so glad. Here is 1. Here is 2. Here is 3. Here is 4. Okay, I'm going to get rid of half of my whole number already. See the whole number right here? 4. What's half of 4? How many full ones do we need? Well, I'm going to get rid of some. Here we go. I'm going to get rid of half of them. So how many holes do I have left? I have 2 holes. Okay, and now I'm going to work with my fraction. Okay, I also have a half. Do you see it? Now to get rid of that fraction, I have to double it so I can cut it evenly. So I make this half into fourths because 1/2 equals, you might even have this by memory now, 2/4, just like your sandwich. Okay, 1/2 equals 2/4. So I'm going to get rid of half of the half, which is getting rid of 1/4. What do I have left? There it is. What do I have left? 1/4. So I have 2 holes left. 1, 2, and 1/4. Do you see it? And it's tablespoons, TBSP of water. Whew! And I have recipes and double recipes all the time that these fractions, most of the time I just do them in my head. Sometimes they take a little bit more thinking. But if you bake and want to, you can challenge yourself. You can say, Mom, can we do a recipe but only make half? And see if you can figure it out. All right, I was going to use this. Oops, sorry, boys and girls. I was going to use this scratch paper to do all the work, but I fit it on that page. All right, so here we go. Flip the page. We are on page 198. And it says mark X to half. I'm going to go to blue. Mark X to half each amount. Write the new amount. So it's kind of what we just did. Are you ready? So we have 3/4. And the nice thing is they already doubled it for us. 3/4 equals what? To double it, times 2 equals what we do to the bottom, we also do to the top. 3/4 equals 6/8. Can you see it in the picture? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 8 total, 6/8. So it says to mark an X to get rid of half. How many do we get rid of out of 6? What's half of 6? We're going to mark off 3. 1, 2, 3. What do we have left over? We have 3/8 cup left over. Awesome. I love it because these are already drawn for us. 1/4, 1 and 1/4. Do you see the 4th there? But they've already cut it into what? 8ths, because we need to double it. So they've cut it into 8ths for us. So we are going to mark off half. I'm going to get rid of these extra lines because they're kind of sloppy. Because all we're going to do is we're going to mark off half of the amount. So I'm going to mark off half. What am I left with, boys and girls? How many do I have left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What? 5 out of how many total? 5/8. Do you see that there? Okay, next one. 2/3. This one's funny. They did not cut them in half for us. So we're going to have to do that. They're just seeing if we're paying attention, I guess. So what is half of 2/3? Can we split this evenly? Nope. But what can we do? We can cut it into, what's double thirds? We can cut it into 6ths. So do that right now. And mark off half. Get rid of half of those. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 4/6. What's half of 4/6? Well, let's get rid of half. What do we have left? 1, 2 out of, what's our total? 2 out of 6 in the denominator, 2/6. Alrighty. Let's look at this one here. They did not split it for us, so we're going to do that ourselves. We have 1. And, oh, they did split it for us. 1 and 2/4, which is the same as a half. Do you see it? There's the half. And they split it into 4ths for us. So we're just going to mark off half of these. Are you ready? Half. I'm going to get rid of 2 out of the 4 of these. And I'm going to get rid of 1 of these. So that's half. What do I still have left? 1, 2, 3, 3. And what is our fraction? What parts of these? This is 1, 2, 3. These are all 4ths. 3/4 of a pound left. Awesome. Is this making a little bit more sense as we go on? Kind of fun. You're just marking them off. Zane, I know how much you love fractions, so I hope you're loving this page. Now, I might use my blank page to do some of this work if we can't fit it right here. Let's read them together. Maria's mom told her to buy 2 packages of chopped nuts. One package had 3/4 cup and the other had 1 cup. That's weird that they were different. Which amount is larger? So what are they asking, boys and girls? Are we adding things, splitting things? It's just saying what is more? 3/4 cup or 1 cup? You probably don't even need to draw the picture to see this. What's more? 3/4 cup or 1 cup? We know that 1 cup, and some people might be confused. So they'll, oh, 1, 3 is more than 1. No, but it's 3 parts out of 4 parts. So that is not more than 1. This is the same as 4/4. And we know that 4/4 is bigger than 3/4. So what is larger? Your answer is 4/4 of a cup, which is the same as 1 cup. 1 cup is larger. Do you see that? Okay, number 14. Sydney poured 2/3 cup of milk into the batter. After mixing, he added, ooh, key word there, he added 1/3 cup more. How much milk did Sydney use in the recipe? I don't even have to draw a picture. They want us to add the fractions. How do we add fractions? Remember, adding fractions is so fun. So he has 2/3 a cup of milk, plus he adds 1/3 more. All we have to do is add the what? The numerator. And the denominator stays the same. Excellent. 3/3, that's the same as what? I could put 3/3 cup, but that's also the same as what? 1 cup. 1 cup, if you want to put of milk, that's fine, but 1 cup is a sufficient answer. So 1 cup. All right, I'm going to skip over to 16 because it's right here, and then we'll scoot down a little bit. So move over to 16. It says there was 3/4 cup of flour in a container. Diet used 1/4 cup in a recipe. How much flour is left? If you have 3/4 and you use a fourth, and a key word is how much is left, is that adding or subtracting? So I have 3/4 and I scoop out and use 1/4. That means I'm going to subtract. So let's look at that here. They have 3/4 and then minus 1/4. I love it. Super easy. All we have to do is subtract the what? The numerator. What's 3 minus 2? I'm sorry, what's 3 minus 1? It's 2. What is 4 minus 4? Nope, you don't do that. Remember, I tried to trick you. Denominator stays the same. 2/4. Now, you don't have to reduce the fraction. What does that mean, Mrs. Kornthal? As you get bigger, so when you're in 4th grade, you will have the reduced fraction, which means the lowest denominator here, and 2/4 equals 1/2. But right now you're in 3rd grade, so I'm not even going to put that. 2/4 is the correct answer for you. Even though some of you might know, well, that's the same as 1/2, Mrs. Kornthal. Yes, but right now all you need to do is do this. 3/4 minus 1/4 equals 2/4. Okay, so your answer is 2/4 and 2/4 what? 2/4 cup. If you want to put a flour, that's fine. But 2/4 cup is okay, and I would mark it right. But if you want to write a flour, be my guest because you love writing what it is. Now, if you're writing out a real recipe, of course you wanted to say what it was, because what if you add a 4th cup of baking soda instead of sugar, that's going to be weird. But right now, just for your answer, as long as you label cup or teaspoon or whatever it is, the measurement, that is fine with me. Okay, here we go. Number 17. Grandpa's caramel corn recipe uses 1/3 cup of corn syrup. To make half the recipe, ooh, that's what we just did. To make half the recipe, how much corn syrup is needed? Okay, so we are going to do that again. We have 2/3. Here we go. 2/3 cup of corn syrup. Do you see that? I can't split that evenly, so I need to double that. 2/3 becomes what? 4/6. Do you see that? We did that on the other page. But let's cross off half. Ready? 1, 2 out of 4 are going to go away. What am I left with? What am I left with? 1, 2. And what's my new denominator? Is it out of thirds anymore? No, it's out of sixths. 2/6 is left. You know what? Forgive me. No, that's good. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. Boys and girls, I just made that harder on you. Forgive me. I just realized from the other page, all I had to do, actually, we didn't have to divide that into 6. I'm going to erase that. I just made that one step harder. It's still the right answer, but you can take away. If I have thirds, can I just do this? Can I take away one of those? Cut it in half? Sure. 2/3, take away half of the thirds? 1/3. Which is still the same as 2/6. But I just added an extra step there. Sorry about that. So you have 1/3 cup of corn syrup. Awesome. Move on up. Here we go. Nico will make half a recipe of brownies. So there's our clue again. Half a recipe of brownies. The full recipe requires 2 1/2 cups flour. How much will he use? So we have 1 cup. We have 2 cups. And we have a 1/2 cup. That's what the regular recipe requires. Do you see it? I'm going to get rid of half of these. I'm going to get rid of half of the whole numbers. So what am I left with? 1. And how do I get rid of half of this half? I divide them into fourths and I get rid of one of those. What am I left with? 1/4. So I have 1 1/4 cups of flour. Awesome. Okay, last one. And then we're done with the page. Violetta poured 1/2 cup of tomato sauce into her chili. Later, she added, boys and girls, they tell you what you're going to be doing here, 1/2 cup more. How much tomato sauce did she use? So she had 1/2. And then she added, so what do? You're going to add 1/2 more. Kevin, are you showing your work? Don't just do this in your head. I know you might be able to do this. 1/2 plus 1/2. I can picture it in my head with a sandwich. I know it's a whole. I want you to show your work. If you do not have work on your paper, go add it right now. 1/2 plus 1/2. You add the top, you add the numerators, and you get 2. The denominator stays the same. 2/2 is the same as what? 1. So I would accept 2/2 or 1 cup of tomato sauce. Is that the same thing? Yes. Awesome. Okay, boys and girls, you are done for the day. If you want to do a challenge problem, if you want to look at a recipe yourself and check it out and see if you can challenge yourself to make a half of that, even if it's just figuring out the fractions for what the recipe would be, please do. If you want to bake some cookies today, now's a good excuse. I love you, love God, and love your neighbor.